Looking back at classic games can be a problem sometimes. Some games you remember as being great aren't actually that great. And some are just, well...
Holy shit.
But what about Duke? Duke Nukem. He was a pop culture machine, one that seemingly got stuck on random, but apparently that was part of his charm. Well, that and the guns. His first two outings are platform games that haven't exactly aged amazingly well, but, I mean, compared to his newer games, at least they're still playable. Ugh. In his prime, however, Duke was a fucking wonder to behold. It's just that his prime was very, very short. Like a firework, but filled with steroids and porn mags. That firework was christened Duke Nukem 3D, a first-person shooter developed by 3D Realms all the way back in 1996. Fucking hell, I was 2 years old when that came out. God, that's weird to think about. It's the first major outing of Ken Silverman's Build engine, an engine which hosted many an improvement over the old Doom engine. All of which you can read on Wikipedia because I ain't got time for all this technical hocus pocus, and I'm an idiot. All you really need to know before heading into this is that it's a classic first-person shooter with a wannabe action hero for a lead, and pigs with shotguns ready to fill you with some extra holes. I hope that sounds interesting to you, because we haven't even fucking started yet. The story is as simple can be. The aliens have invaded Earth, fuck 'em up. Patriotism, America, fuck yeah, etc, etc. You'll really only ever see this plot at the end of each episode, but it's all the plot a schlocky 80s B-movie would need, and it fits this game like a glove. I mean, do you really need anything else? Well, good maps would be a start, and in my opinion it's got some pretty damn good ones, ranging from strip clubs to space stations to horrific oozed-filled alien shitholes. Oh god, I can fucking smell this level. Most of the levels in this game are quite labyrinthian, but still manageable. They just might take a while if it's your first time through. Oh god, I'm so fucking stupid. And that's not even counting the absurd amount of secrets that are in each level. Is that a crack in the wall? Why, yes it is. Blow it the fuck up and see what happens. If you're lucky, it might even be Does anyone even remember secret levels in video games nowadays? I miss them. It's all just DLC nowadays. I think the only level I had a real issue with was the Abyss. And that was because I couldn't find a handprint on a wall. It did fade in pretty well, so that's the excuse I'm going with anyway. The objectives in each map are the same as most classic first-person shooter games. Run, kill, grab keycards, open doors, leave. Repeat as needed. It's not mind-blowing, but I'll take this over Call of Duty's kill all the foreigners because freedom, hooah, any day. Although if they make a new one, I think Duke's gonna need a bigger wallet. Where does he keep all his keycards anyway? A few standout levels for me have to be Red Light District, because fuck that building. Spin Cycle, Lunar Apocalypse's secret level where you fight a horde of aliens in a giant washing machine. And Duke Burger. Because of course Duke owns his own line of burger joints. He's a fucking patriot. The only level I can actually say I hated was the Queen, the final level of the 4th episode, but let's leave that discussion for later, shall we? So with the levels being a bit of an adventure, and that has to be the understatement of the fucking year, I guess it's a good thing the gunplay in this game is actually pretty satisfying. You start off with a dinky little pistol, of course, but it does its job. The Imperial thoughts start when you get the shotgun. It's pretty hard to fuck up a shotgun in a video game, although some games have managed it. And god does this game get it right. It actually feels really good to fire. That click on the reload. You've also got pipe bombs for when you want the entire room to fuck off, an RPG for more targeted removal, the shrinker and expander for squishing or inflating your enemies into goo, depending on your fetish. Sorry, I just threw up my mouth a little bit. The freeze thrower, for when you want a little bit of ice in your whiskey, and the laser trip bomb, which I hardly used. In fact, the enemies killed each other with it more than I ever did. But even the chain gun is overdoing it in this game. It has 3 fucking barrels. You can dual wield rocket launchers. Jesus Christ, that's a fucking religious experience. In fact, I'd say all the combat in this game feels fast and fun. On a level only classic shooters seem to be able to deliver. Nowadays it's all, realism, let's be super serious and make everyone duck behind cover for the whole game. Because staring at a brick wall for 3 hours sure is worth my £50. Here's the real question, can you shrink enemies and stomp them like heavily armed flies in Battlefield? No? Well then 0 out of 10. Get the fuck out. just make sure to quick save a lot if you're an idiot like me. I played the entire game on
Come get some.
While I felt it gave a good balance of challenge and fun, the pig cops, which are like the second enemy in the game, can drop you pretty fast if they get the drop on you, and you'd better have your will ready if these hit scan enforcer fuckers get you trapped. Good luck with that one. For those of you blessed few out there who haven't trekked through the hellscape to this hit scan, basic summary: no matter how much you throw yourself around the room, if they're facing you, they'll hit. It's not like rockets, which are actual projectiles you can dodge, instead they can just rip you apart, no matter where you are, unless you duck behind something fast enough. This, funnily enough, made the first boss the hardest to deal with, as I could just circle strafe around the others and avoid their fire, making them a piece of piss, while the Battle Lord seemed to fire sentient tracking bullets and hit me no matter where I went. And then in later levels it becomes a mini-boss you have to fight quite regularly, usually hidden behind little gotcha moments where you open a door and he's just... This mainly happens on the 4th episode, The Birth, where Duke has to abort an alien queen before she shits out enough drones to take over the world.
I'm going in.
Oh, sweet baby Jesus, the protector drones. Guess I've got to talk about them now. In close quarters, they're piss easy. There's just nothing to worry about. Unfortunately, their ranged attack is just the fucking shrinker, meaning that you'll get one hit killed unless you book it straight out of the room, unless you like being turned into a very talkative paste. Now, one hit kills are bullshit in any game, but this doesn't even give me a fighting chance. And the Queen herself makes me never want to play this episode ever again. She has so much fucking health, births drones at a stupidly fast rate, has an attack that can hit you no matter where you are, and instead of just dropping a toaster into the pool and being done with it, you have to fight her underwater. The whole level. Just a helpful little tip for you. Don't turn around. Ever. It's like fucking aliens back there, just don't stop swimming. Don't stop never stop fucking swimming. Oh hey! Look who designed this map. Fuck, I hate you.
It's time to abort your whole friggin' species.
You serious?
The other enemies in the game are thankfully far less annoying, ranging from the easy to euthanize Assault Trooper, to the floating brain squid octobrains, to the oh god why does life hate me fat commanders. As long as you don't try to boot everything to death, you should be fine. Unless you want to give that a go. At which point be my guest. You fucking weirdo. Then there's the bosses, only 2 of which I'd count as an actual challenge, both of which I've already mentioned, the Battle Lord and the Alien Queen. The Overlord, boss of the 2nd episode, and the Cycloid Emperor, boss of the 3rd episode, are jokes compared to those 2, as they fire rocket projectiles instead of hit scan. You can actually dodge them. And by dodge I mean running a circle around them firing rockets in their vague direction until you feel a bit sick. And after dealing with one of these said bosses and teaching them the power of freedom, you get a cutscene where Duke deals with the alien scum in his own classy, sophisticated manner. I wouldn't expect anything less. Now if you enjoy those cutscenes like I do, then you'll love Duke's constant quipping. Well okay, I guess calling it quipping is a bit of a stretch per se, but I mean quoting movies isn't exactly witty. In fact, if you wanted to make a Duke bot, all you'd have to do is feed it a page of movie one-liners and hit random, but it fits Duke's macho idiot character to a T, and makes a satisfying little cherry on top of the gory remains you leave in your wake.
It's time to kick ass and chew bubble gum, and I'm all out of gum.
It also helps that Duke is voiced by John St. John, a man so perfect as the Duke I can't really imagine anyone else voicing him. Except this guy. I like this guy. Without John St. John, there'd be no Duke, and without Duke, this game would just be good and not the legendary shooter it became. In fact, if you, for some reason, want to experience Duke Nukem 3D without the trademark personality permeating through it, you can play Lame Duke. Lame Duke is a beta version of Duke Nukem 3D made in 1994 and released in 1997 to commemorate Duke's 1-year anniversary. It's massively different from the released game, with weird robot enemies and a story more akin to the previous platform entries. From what I've seen, Duke doesn't utter a single word. Not even a casual fuck. Just pure slightly macho silence. It makes it feel like a totally different game. It's missing the Duke Nukem flair many people know and love. I mean, I'd still take this over Duke Nukem Forever's past his prime old man Duke, but it's still amazing how what seems like such a small thing can have such a large effect. Funny little tidbit here, according to the Duke Nukem wiki, a pretty good website by the way, only 2 of the maps in this beta didn't make it in some form into the final game. Also, it has bats, because apparently Duke also pissed off either Dracula or Batman. Something else missing from Lame Duke is a soundtrack, instead filling its place as one track from fellow classic shooter Rise of the Triad. Thankfully for the full release, we got a soundtrack composed by Lee Jackson, responsible for Duke's well-known theme music and later released shooter Shadow Warrior, and Bobby Prince, responsible for a lot of soundtracks. Holy shit, is that Doom? Now this is a damn good soundtrack. Usually I have trouble remembering songs from games as they tend to be a bit overshadowed by the gunshots and the screaming, but goddamn do I remember a good number of these tracks. From the first level track Stalker to Lunar Reactor's Alien Say Your Prayers. To the Queen's weird, almost Halo-sounding departure. The tracks that hit hard, and are probably going to be stuck in my memory until I head to my alcohol and nuclear fire-induced grave. Yeah, it's all MIDI, but who cares? This shit would be great played on a burnt-out car with rubber dicks for drumsticks, though I'd love to hear someone remaster this on some proper instruments. Remaster. I feel like I've heard that word before. Oh god, is it that time already? Okay, so I played this whole thing using the eDuke 32 source port, a free fan-made upgrade of sorts that allows this game to run on modern systems without using something like DOSBox. But to use that, you need to own Duke Nukem 3D to begin with. So how did I get that? Well, simple. I bought the Megaton Edition on Steam. The Megaton Edition is great. Not only is it cheap, but it comes with all the official expansions and supports just about any mod you'd want to run. Even some of the sprites have been upscaled. You can run it in pretty goddamn high resolutions, and it even has Steam Workshop support. What's not to love? Well, for me it gave me bad motion sickness. See, from what I understand, regular eDuke 32 ups the field of view with the higher resolutions. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, just duct tape some cardboard tubes to your eyes and see how long you can go throughout the day without projectile vomiting all over your desk. The Megaton Edition seems to be stuck on a rather small FOV that my brain just couldn't handle, which is unfortunate, but hey, at least I can run it through regular old eDuke 32. In fact, I wonder if anyone's found a fix for this yet. Let's just go check on Steam. Wait, what the fuck? Yeah, so when Gearbox got the rights to Duke Nukem 3D, they felt the need to pull every other version of it, coincidentally around the time they released their absolutely unneeded World Tour Edition. This version of the game comes with all the content of the Atomic Edition, with none of the expansion packs the Megaton Edition had come with, at almost double the fucking price. But they got Johnson John back to redo all the Duke talk, which would have been great if he didn't sound bored out of his skull.
I'm getting too old for this shit.
He had more fucking interest reading 50 Shades of Grey.
Then we'll fuck.
Maybe because he wasn't working for Gearbox at the time. See, from what I remember, the last time Gearbox got someone famous to read lines for them, it was Michael Biehn for Aliens Colonial Marines, and he found it passionless and not fun at all. So that might go away to explain why it sounds like old Duke Boy is questioning his existence throughout this whole fucking thing. You can turn on Legacy Duke talk, but that again raises the question of why you'd pay almost double for an inferior version. Oh yeah, because they removed the superior version. Thanks, Randy. Now get the fuck out of my commentary track. You didn't even make this game. At least there's a new episode. In fact, that was one of the main selling points. They got the band back together, well, most of them, to make Alien World Order, where Duke goes from country to country kicking more alien ass along the way. There's more Duke talk, a new enemy, a new boss, a new weapon, and a new soundtrack. And the soundtrack is the only new thing, aside from the maps, that doesn't completely suck. Duke still sounds like he'd rather be anywhere else and spews out memes older than dirt. Or, jokes?
I wonder if the Siskova sisters still live here. Natasha and Nastia.
Is this your idea of jokes, Randy? Because you trying to defend Duke Nukem Forever is funnier. The new enemy, the Firefly Trooper, is pretty much worthless. He shrinks himself down to try and avoid your attacks, which most of the time doesn't work as long as you're not right in its face, and it can't do anything to stop you from turning it into extra crispy terrestrials. It even blows up, so if you want help clearing a room, just keep an eye out for the 3 levels these guys pop up in. The new weapon, the Incinerator, might as well be a toaster, because the only thing you're wasting with it is your time. Yeah, it can kill troopers and pig cops, but so can your shotgun. Maybe it works well on bosses. No. In fact, the one time I used it on a Battle Lord because I had a surplus amount of ammo for it, it bugged out and became invincible every time I used it. How the fuck did you manage that? They even, for some reason, gave the weapon to the final boss, so he can't hit me unless I'm headbutting his nuts. There isn't even a cutscene for beating him, it's just straight to credits before you even have the chance to process it. Don't hurt yourself, lads, I'm sure writing those amazing quips took it out of you. At least the first, 4 maps are pretty good. They added a lot of detail for maps running on such a dated engine. My main issue with them is the boss spam. Whenever the game feels it needs to ramp up the difficulty, it'll throw mini-bosses, or just plain old regular bosses at you. It happens way too often and feels like a plaster to cover up how rushed some of the later levels feel. Those later levels are still alright design-wise, but the drop in detail is really noticeable. Still though, the maps are pretty good. That's probably because they're designed by Alan Bloom and Richard Level Lord Grey, both of who designed all the maps of the original 3 games, and the good ones for the 4th episode, along with Keith Schuler and George Broussard, for 3 of the levels at least. Lee Jackson is also back for the soundtrack, which would probably explain why it's alright. I don't like it anywhere near as much as the original game's soundtrack, but it still fits well, and it does its job well. All in all, Duke Nukem 3D is a lot of fun, even today. It's fast, fun, and has some decent challenge to it without going to the cheap difficulty well too often. While the graphics have aged like Tesco value wine, its gameplay still holds up pretty well, and just like its predecessor Doom, there's enough mods and custom levels to keep you going for ages. I would say it's worth buying, but I cannot in good faith tell you to pay full price for the World Tour Edition. If you can somehow buy the Megaton Edition, or find other means of acquiring the game, don't worry, I won't tell.
FBI, open up!
I'd say do that first, or at least wait for a sale. I paid like £3 for this game. I'd say it's an alright price. Seeing as most mods don't work with the World Tour Edition, because fuck you, Randy, you'll pretty much be stuck with whatever maps are on the Steam Workshop. And most of those are just ported over from the Megaton Edition's workshop. Not saying that's bad, most of the maps are pretty good. It's just that when some of the highest rated maps are ported straight from the expansions Gearbox should have ported anyway, you know things have gone wrong. Unless you're Bethesda, then modders fixing your fuck-ups is just the usual.